Welcome back to the Hirewell Hot Corner, where sports and recruitment meet. I am your host, Dan Patel, joined as always by my Iron Man co-host, Louie Marisi. Louie, great to see you again. Cleaned up a little bit, both of us, for this episode.
Yeah,
Let's jump right in. What's going on in your world, the world of sports today?
good amount of stuff, especially today, even like specifically today. But MLB kicked off, spring training ended. Pirates and Cubs are both coming out of the gate strong. Pirates still undefeated, so congrats to you. Cubs, after losing the first two, have rifled three in a row off, so some pretty good stuff. Final four for both men's and women's college basketball. And then today we actually saw Stefan Diggs get traded to the Houston Texans. A lot of shakeup, even just today, this week, like pretty recent stuff.
A lot to unpack. A lot of early optimism from me as a Pirates fan, going 5-0, knowing really darn well that it won't last, but maybe this year is different. I think for the Pirates and Cubs, both coming out strong from some new talent, so it's exciting to see on those ends. Final Four, very exciting times for a lot of teams. The women's side, amazing basketball. Caitlin Clark against LSU, such a great game to watch. Should be interesting to see what happens there. Men's side, some favorites. Purdue, UConn, and then you got DJ Burns and NC State coming out hot through the tournament. So they've been fun to watch. And then the Texans just getting absolutely loaded up on offense for next season. They're all in on CJ Stroud, and that offense looks scary.
Their five receivers are all everyday receivers, from the top down: Diggs, Nico Collins, Tank Dell, Robert Woods, and then maybe your fifth or your fourth is John Mechie, who, you know, is no slouch at that receiver position. Then you got two good running backs, Damon Pierce, and they added Joe Mixon, and then Dalton Schultz at tight end. And then the real catalyst to it all, CJ Stroud, who really, really impressed last year. So they went all in to give him a team around him while he's on his rookie contract, I imagine. So that's my sleeper pick for doing well this year. It's not much of a sleeper anymore.
Definitely not a sleeper. I mean, we're thinking top five offense has got to be like the baseline for what they do with those types of weapons. Any
Yes.
world where John Mechie is potentially a wide receiver four is just an absurd amount of talent. And Bobby Trees at the five, I mean, come on, that's unnecessary. But I'd love to see it. I don't think NFL players really do this, but I'd love to see like Stefan Diggs on LinkedIn. How would you go about doing that if you get traded? Like, "Hey, I'm happy to announce I'm starting a new role as wide receiver of the Houston Texans. I'd like to thank Josh Allen for my time and thanks to D'Amico Ryans for what does that even look like?"
I mean, that would be hysterical if like pro athletes had that. I mean, some of them do, like they're random, very few, but I've seen a couple that maybe aren't the top end, but they're like, yeah, I'm now playing for so and so team. It's just wild. But yeah, it's funny to kind of take that profession and put it into a LinkedIn world because it's so bizarre. Um, you know, I got traded to this team for these draft picks. Like it doesn't really exist in our world. Like you don't trade employees, but
Right.
imagine if we did. That would be wild.
That would be a big shakeup to how we do things. But staying on the LinkedIn train, because LinkedIn, I don't know about you, Louie, but for me, LinkedIn's been a lot more fun lately. I think for a while the market wasn't good. We were seeing a lot of negativity, and I don't want to say all doom and gloom, but a lot of people were looking for jobs and posting their journeys on LinkedIn. Last couple weeks, I've seen a lot more started a new position as, just finished my first day, first week with this company, and a lot of people posting, "Hey, my company is hiring for this role." It's a lot more positive right now.
Yeah, 1,000%. As Stefan Diggs starting a new role with the Texans, we're seeing that on LinkedIn. I mean, even the past couple days, like to start this week, everything seemed positive. It was like, hey, we're hiring, or hey, happy to announce I'm starting a new role here, or I left one company to go to the next. Like, we know that this industry, this market is always a roller coaster, but when it starts to feel more positive, believe me, everyone, it kind of comes all together at one time. Um, yes, there are still those companies that go through layoffs and there is unfortunate stuff, but from a general standpoint, we're seeing a good shift here.
It's a spike in the right direction. Between that and my optimism for the Pirates right now, I'm like riding an all-time high on like the morale train. From a candidate and a company perspective, let's talk about this. What do you do in this change in the market and the uptick we're seeing in new hires, hiring, all that fun stuff?
So from a company standpoint, I think a lot of it is, budgets starting to kick in a little bit bigger than they were in 2023. Still the aftermath of COVID in a way. They still had razor thin budgets for the most part, because they were planned in 2022. They were real tight for 2023, and now they're like, all right, well, things are very much in the rear view. We have a brand new budget now, expecting growth plans. So budget comes into play, expansion, maybe taking on new product lines or just growth in general from headcount or acquisitions. I have a couple clients that have purchased companies to work under their banner, and it's opening up more opportunities within their organization and restructuring and overall growth from a revenue and from business and what they can provide. So these are a lot of the things that I think are leading to this change in the market that we're seeing.
I think everyone took a little bit of a hit in 2023. I think some people, buckled down and maybe turtled a bit to kind of shield themselves from it as best they could. And I think, we're starting to see that uptick in the market across the board where people are popping their heads out and going, oh, actually, we're in a pretty okay spot. We survived this. Now it's time to kind of get back to where we were hoping to be previously. And so, yeah, we're seeing, larger budget plans. We're seeing more advantageous, more aggressive expansion in certain areas. One area, and I know you love this, the area I'm seeing a lot of new hiring and a lot of new roles is sales. I'm seeing a ton of new sales roles. And, it might not always be the company that you would expect it to be, but I feel like every other person I've talked to lately is, we're hiring for salespeople right now.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, you're investing, I guess, a smaller amount of money in a salesperson because a lot of their take home is commission based, so they're driving revenue in. So it's kind of a double-edged sword. Their base salaries are not usually as high because there's that bigger commission piece. So not only are they making less on the books, like guaranteed, but they're also bringing in money to your company. So, when it comes to growth, the bottom line is, do you have the revenue to support the rest of the company? And that's where sales comes in. So, I think that that's a huge piece of why, again, sales is being an industry or a role type that we're seeing expanding at a rapid clip because it's a revenue producing role at the very end of the day.
Yeah. And it's one that makes for safe growth. If your sales team is blowing the doors off this thing, then you have more wiggle room to work with to make those expansions. You kind of grow as demand exists. And so having a sales team, building out a sales team, bringing on new salespeople is kind of a lower risk, higher reward type opportunity because if the market's not there for it, you're not missing out on as much as if you have to go build up a team and then unfortunately, bring it back down to scale. So it brings up an important thing from a candidate side. And I think as we transition from the client talk to the candidate, as we always do in the Hirewell Hot Corner, from these sales jobs, I feel like, and you've had a lot of experience with this recently, the sales jobs that I'm seeing are not the ones you would expect to always see. I think tech sales and like SaaS sales were a big thing a couple years ago. A lot of the companies I'm talking to where I'm seeing jobs in the sales side are blue collar, industrial, manufacturing. And I know you've got a lot to talk about on that side.
Yeah. Went and visited a client of mine today, Great Lakes Industrial. We're working on a sales role for them right now. They're a company that a lot of this topic is derived from is they've purchased a few companies in the local kind of Midwest region. And they're just kind of starting to understand how they have to staff. Do they need to staff up? Do they need to remove some people? But overall, they're growing. And we're seeing it in this space because although COVID took a big chunk out of the tech market, it didn't take as big a chunk out of manufacturing because this stuff is all still very much needed. When it comes to building, when it comes to, factories and or whatever, these types of products, the show goes on. The tech market, I think we're still seeing a little bit more of instability. It's still kind of having its bigger ups and lower downs, but we're starting to get into a point where those are coming. But I will say the consistent hum of the industrial manufacturing hasn't dipped off too high, hasn't just spiked incredibly. It's stability, and I'm thinking, and I've always pushed candidates recently. Stability is the name of the game.
Absolutely. And we're ringing the bells. Help is on the way. There are more opportunities coming every day. But you make a good point. The roles and the industries that you might have been looking in or you might have stuck in for a long time might not be hiring, but there are jobs out there. It's just a matter of finding out what those are. Maybe it's a slightly different title. Maybe it's an area you didn't think to explore. There's jobs. There are some interesting jobs in just the perusing we do for the business development side. I found some jobs in areas or with companies I would have never thought that they would be hiring for. And so I think as a candidate, a lot of it is doing your research, going out and finding those different areas because things are opening up. There are jobs, and it could be your ideal role in a company you never thought you'd work for. It could be an ideal company in the role you didn't think you'd work for. It's just, being open and willing to adapt with the market.
Yeah, yeah. Just maybe get creative. Think about responsibilities that you enjoy on a daily role, and look to target companies or roles that have those responsibilities. And it might not be in the sexy software that 700 other companies also have. Like, it might be in an industrial role somewhere where it's a smaller organization. But either way, get creative, and jobs are on the way.
Keep your LinkedIn profile up to date. Turn on open to work. Recruiters are looking. Keep your resume up to date so you can get it off pretty quickly. Help is on the way, type of thing. So, all right, 2 minute drill to take us home, Louie. We got the Final Four and the NCAA tournament championships coming up soon. We can go back and look at our failed brackets. I know you had UNC going all the way, and I had Houston, and neither one of those are sitting here at the Final Four. So, what do you think is going to happen?
Uh, Pretty obvious choice for the men's UConn. I mean, they're so good. They score at a crazy clip. They haven't been really in a close game just yet, and they're firing on all cylinders. And then let's ride the wave here. I'm going Iowa for the women's. Caitlin Clark is incredible. Like, she shoots the lights out in the gym. She shoots from the parking lot. It doesn't matter. She's I don't see her dropping less than 30 a game the rest of the way.
The fact that UConn hasn't had a really close call in the last two tournaments is absolutely absurd. The fact that they can score at will, sorry, Matt Masucci, but they went on a 30-0 run against the Illini. That's like unheard of. I mean,
Right?
come on. So they were the favorite coming in. They still feel like the favorite. And on the women's side, got to agree with you. Caitlin Clark playing absolutely crazy. Even when you cover her, she does still have teammates on the floor, so she makes plays happen. It's hard to bet against these two teams. That's what I think is going to happen. What I want to happen, I love DJ Burns. Give me the NC State train to keep it moving. Wolfpack all the way. Even better would be an NC State sweep. Both of their teams are in the Final Four. Wouldn't that be quite a sight to see?
Yeah, I don't know how much time we have left here, but as soon as I saw NC State beat UNC in the ACC championship, I had NC State going all the way to the Elite Eight, and I didn't have them going to the Final Four. But they're a team that needs to be reckoned with clearly, and they are they are riding DJ Burns because he's fun to watch. He's a big boy, and he has such a good touch around the net. It's wild, and deserves all the hype he's getting.
How could you not love him? Well, on behalf of Louie and myself, thank you once again for tuning in to the Hirewell Hot Corner. Please do join us again soon for our next episode. And as always, stay classy, LinkedIn.